get started. I'm going to be messing around with the little new camera I got. So I might be reaching and doing some things here, but let's get started. Hi, I'm Braven, talking to camera number 2. And let's go look around the studio and just see what we're going to be doing today. Hold on a second. You wait just a second, please, darling. And I'm going to take this here. Okay, now I've got it. If you want to see, check this out. I've got my new little camera, and I'm going to put it where it belongs. Yeah. There. See that? Okay, that's recording. This one is just streaming live. But anyway, let's look around. I've taken some sculptures out of their molds today, and I'm going to show you those. Flip the camera around. As you can see, here are 3 sculptures that I've just cast in the last couple of days. It turned out pretty good, except for this one. I'm going to zero in on a detail here. Take a look at that. Not too pretty. This, hold on, this is supposed to look like that. So, just a little imperfection. But that's all right. And then these are some other things I've cast. I've cast a lot of bananas in the last few days because they're really popular. And I think I'll do some more today. So let's get started. Let me just get some show notes here. It's okay. I have so many devices going on at the same time, but that's no excuse for a crummy, boring show. So let's just get started. Now, pardon the shaky cam while I arrange my phone. That's my workspace, where the magic happens, hopefully. There we go. All right. Let's just work with these 2 banana molds right now. Something's beeping, but it doesn't matter. Let's go. Okay, I'm going to clean off these molds here. Okay, got it. I'm going to say hello to YouTube. Let's see now. Hello. Welcome to my sculpture studio. Welcome to my sculpture studio. Feel free to ask anything. And be sure to check out my finished work at ClayBraven.etsy.com. It never gets that right. Oopsie. Hold on. Let's go. Vandarez. Clayberry. ClayBraven. Claybe. R-A-V-E. ClayBraven.etsy.com. Okay. Send. Pin. Pin message. All right. There we go. Is that a hoof? What do you mean a hoof? Oh, no, no. This is the, okay, I'm going to show you. Just a second here. Put this gadget up here. This is a rubber mold. And be right back with the sculpture. This is a rubber mold. Both of these are for the same sculpture, and it's this one. It's a couple of bananas. Two wise guys cooking up a caper. Yeah, so I cast concrete sculptures and I use rubber molds that I take off of my own clay sculptures. So I make this out of clay, then cover it in silicone rubber to make this, and then I cast it using concrete. And what I'm going to do right now is pour concrete into the molds. So that's what we're just about to do. But before that, silicone rubber is pretty strong, but if it starts to tear, it'll tear real easily. So these molds could last 10 years and 200-300 castings before I really have to make a new one. As long as I treat them well. And one way, it's just like with your car, you wouldn't drive your car without oil. I wouldn't want to cast sculptures in these without coating them in a little bit of oil. And some people use certain types of spray, like silicone, really expensive silicone or lecithin sprays for fine casting of resin type materials. But I use concrete, and so I use just vegetable shortening for my molds. So just dab it in there and spread it around. Not a real thin layer, not too much, but it really helps preserve the mold for next time. And it makes it a little easier to take things out of the molds. So that's what I do. It's kind of crude, but it's also kind of refined. Oh, I've got to mess with my gadget again. There we go. Someday this is going to be all sophisticated and seamless, but that day is not this day. Okay, that's pretty clean, pretty smooth. Next, since this is a hanging wire, since this is a hanging sculpture, I put a wire in the back for it to hang on, a copper wire. So let's get that ready. This is copper magnet wire. I use copper because it doesn't rust. It just gets a fine patina if it ever does. So it's good for outdoor. It's better than steel, which will rust. Even if it's stainless steel, someday it's going to rust. But and aluminum too. Aluminum, sometimes it doesn't rust and sometimes it does. And when it does, it goes fast. It just turns to mush. I'm talking about if you hang these things outdoors for years. If it's indoors, it doesn't really matter, steel, aluminum, or copper. But copper, technically it rusts, but it only develops a fine patina on the surface. It doesn't rust through and become weaker. So if you really want to make something weatherproof, you should use copper wire, in my opinion. There we go. Okay. I'm outdoors, if you can, which you can probably tell. Tools ready. Let's mix up some concrete. Banana, chicken banana. I have not heard of that. I'm going to have to check that out. Yeah, that sounds pretty funny. I haven't done a chicken yet. I knew a guy in the Netherlands one time who, he was a Swiss sculptor working in the Netherlands, and he made chickens. That was his whole, what would you call it, theme was chickens and roosters, and he carved them out of wood, out of tree stumps. It was really interesting. I hung out there for a little while, and just actually at the time I was passing through France. This was during a trip to France, and yeah, so I watched him sculpt and used to chat. But he always did roosters. Although when I met him, he was carving a nativity scene. Didn't do exclusively roosters. also know a lady who lives here in Portland who her specialty is casting sculptures of roosters in plaster. She makes big plaster casts, big plaster molds and casts things in actually different materials, but she likes to make realistic looking roosters. This is a little too soupy. I need to add more concrete. If there's too much water in the concrete, it gets weaker molecularly, and when you put the concrete into the mold, more bubbles will form on the surface of the sculpture. Hi, Christina. I know Christina. So let's just mix it up, and what I do is I try to knock the dust off the sides of the bucket, but also I try to smush all the little globs of not quite yet dried, not yet wet concrete against the corner, against the side of the bucket, just to eliminate any lumps. Mix it up pretty good. This is fast curing concrete. If I leave it to sit here for about 10 minutes, it'll be too solid to work with. But if I keep mixing it and keep agitating it, it can stay liquid for, it can stay fluid for an hour or more, just almost indefinitely. So you have to remain conscious of the time that's elapsing from the perspective of the concrete body. And now I'm gonna put this more fluid concrete in here and work with it, and this will start becoming more solid. But I'll mix it every now and then to keep it workable. So I want this about shamrock shake fluidity, and the concrete that I leave behind in the bucket, I'm gonna let it develop about a clay-like consistency eventually to work with it. Here we go. You can't just dump the concrete into the mold. The next thing I have to do is get the concrete body to flow over the surface of the inside of the mold, especially through all the little details of the nose and mouth. You may have noticed on this sculpture there are little bubble holes in the tip of the nose and in other places. Those I'll have to fix later, but I've got to minimize them to make it easy to work with after I take it out of the mold. So that's why I'm doing this with a chip brush. I'm also going to shake it later. Over the big smooth areas of the surface, I just have to brush it like paint. That. Right here, what I'm doing is, you see how there's a sort of a U-shaped, almost like a tunnel inside this mold. And what I'm doing is pushing the fluid concrete up through here so it'll flow through here and come out here. I want that flow of the fluid concrete over the surface of the mold, even up in these little detailed areas. Because that's where bubbles tend to collect. And those will be little pinholes in the surface of the cast sculpture that I have to fix later. So I'm minimizing those. And I do the same thing like this. in big construction jobs and in some types of casting, they do a lot of this same operation through vibration. They have like a machine that makes it go brrrr. I've seen that in dentist offices too. When you have a concrete body with heavy quartz sand in it like this, you don't want to do that too much, because then the sand will settle down on to the surface of the mold and you'll get a weak, grainy surface. You use a rubber spatula now because it's more like a squeegee. It can get every last bit of concrete out of the bucket. I use the bamboo spatula to mix just because it's stronger. And you need a lot of force to get the initial dry concrete mixed up with the water. But now just this rubber spatula is good enough. Maybe a little more. Okay, now I want to leave this until it becomes as firm as clay. And this, I want to develop about as much firmness as soft ice cream. And those are the consistencies that I'll need for two different types of work. One is I'm going to take, when this is like soft ice cream, I'm going to push it up against the edges of the mold to get a good structural coating on the entire inside of the mold. You can see how it's all slumped down to the bottom right now. When this is like clay, I'm then going to use it to pinch around the edges to give it a good ridge, structural ridge around the back of the sculpture, and little chunks of concrete to hold this wire in firmly. Yeah, it's going to go right about there. So while I'm waiting for the concrete to develop that firmness, I'm going to wash my tools. Let's set this concrete aside. Be back in a second after I wash these. Oh, yeah, Honey's house. You said, doesn't that brushing mess up your Crisco? You know, I've wondered about that, and I don't know, but I can tell you, I could swear that it still comes out a little more easily, even when I brush it pretty aggressively. So I I don't put enough Crisco on there that it would change the strength of the concrete or affect the surface of the sculpture. It's a real light coat, but it somehow works. I think it probably works best when I don't brush that much, but I don't know. It's just not something I've worried about. Ooh, this is, wow. I kind of let this go for a long time. This has gone beyond soft ice cream, and now it's like firm Haagen-Dazs, which is another scientific term for the consistency of the concrete. But you can still soften up concrete by agitating it. It reliquefies it, so I'm not worried. Kind of agitate it, and then let's work with it. Woo, that is hard. Uh-oh. Okay. This requires extreme measures. I let it go too long. I almost never do this, but this is actually now workable like clay. I'm kind of liking this. It's actually working. Just got to keep it agitated, keep it from settling. That's getting firm too. Look at that. Uh-oh. Better knead that a little bit. Ooh, this is an emergency. It's going to work though. Hold on. Get in there. Yep. Wow. Okay, I can feel the little tips of the inside of the mold poking my fingers there, so I don't want to make holes in the sculpture. Now, oh boy, that is fast setting cement. Okay, I think this, I don't know, we'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out if this worked, but I got a good feeling about it. I think this may be okay. I may have just developed, but you know, this is how trial and error works, but I may have just developed a little bit of a new technique here. Because my main problem is usually the concrete, I don't have the patience to wait that long, and my concrete is too sticky and slumpy when I'm working on it like this. And it just, like I do this and it falls back down to the bottom and I got to wait a few minutes. But this is very solid stuff here. Okay, now I just have to finish smoothing quickly so it doesn't harden up so much that I can't get the wire in there. These walls are going to be a little thicker and it'll be a little heavier sculpture than I usually cast, but still, it's going to work. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Before I knew much about concrete, I would have just had to throw this thing in the trash because I would have let it solidify and would not be able to work with it because I wouldn't know what to do. But anyway, so here we go. Let's just smooth it out and call it a day. Yeah, usually I hollow out these ends of the banana a little bit more. All right, that's good. Now this stuff is still workable. Now let me just look around in here. Yeah, we got a good smooth. That's a really nice smooth surface in here. I just can't. With enough force, I could like dig way in there and dig way in here and lighten the sculpture a little bit, but it's not worth it. It doesn't have to be that elegant. Take a look here. Okay, this wire has to be just the right. If it sticks out too much, it's gonna end up here. And if it's too short, it'll be too close to the center of gravity down here. So I want to get it in a sweet spot that will enable you to use a hook or a nail to hang it and pull it up to about right here. So it won't bump into here, but it'll also be well above the center of gravity. yeah, I think I just discovered I can let the let the concrete get fairly hard and still rescue it. Sometimes on cold days, um, I put less water in the concrete, in the original concrete mix, and I think that's the reason that it hardens up so quickly. I don't mix the concrete in scientifically using, measuring the temperature and the humidity and the amounts or the weight of the water and the weight of the concrete. I just do it all intuitively because there are just so many variables involved, and um, I don't like. I mean, I've tried measuring the water, but it always turns out differently because there's so many variables, including air temperature, water temperature, humidity, and I think the concrete itself, although it's a consumer product, sometimes I could swear they put more super plasticizer in it, which is a kind of vinyl powder that changes its lava-like qualities. Or maybe the concrete, I use Cementol, Rapid Set brand Cementol mortar, and I'm sure they get it from different suppliers, and maybe each supplier has their own slight variations, and I don't know. So I just go by feel and intuition. Okay, I'm not going to mess with that anymore. I think it's just about right. So much excitement. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second. Okay, we have a little bit left over. Let's just use it. Look at that, it's perfect, just like clay. What a wonderful consistency. But I'm gonna re-liquefy it and use it in my next batch of concrete. So. Okay. I'm gonna go wash off these tools and be right back. Just in 90 seconds. Hello, Toussaint. I'm casting concrete sculptures today, as usual. This is my banana sculpture. See, it goes like that inside the rubber mold, and then tomorrow I pop it out, and there we go, my banana sculpture. Then I'll do some sanding and grinding. So I've got one more banana to cast right now. Get some concrete. Not too much, not too little. Every little operation that generates dust I like to do in front of this room fan, just so it blows it away and I don't have to breathe it. Later on, when I grind these sculptures with angle grinders and die grinders and stuff, I like to use a good respirator, a P100 filter respirator, just because you don't want to breathe that dust. And a fan. I use a fan and a respirator when I do that, but right now I'm not using a respirator, just the fan. And I actually turn it off as soon as the concrete is wet. Okay, now I'm turning off the fan because this concrete is so wet that no more dust is floating up out of it. Let's mix out these lumps. That's just about the right fluidity for this type of concrete. This is actually a mortar. This stuff is so strong. It develops like 6,000 psi of strength when it's fully cured. Okay, let's get rid of bubbles. Okay, now this is still too fluid and slumpy to work with. It's not as solid yet as soft ice cream, which is what I'm aiming for. This is also still too fluid. Just by sitting still, it's gotten fairly fluid. This is about the consistency that I'm waiting for this to get to. But I want this to get about the consistency of workable clay. So I'm waiting for this to harden up a little bit. And while I wait, I'll set it aside and wash my tools. No, this is solidifying quick. I should learn my lesson from my last escapade. Yeah, this is already workable. Just in that 30 seconds that between when I said it was too fluid and when I set the bucket over there, it got solid enough to that soft ice cream consistency that it's perfectly workable right now to do just what I want, which is to thicken up the walls of this sculpture. And hollow out the big thick parts underneath this part. I want to make that hollow and light and add strength to the sides here. So we have a hollow, strong, light, strong sculpture. That's what I'm aiming for. I don't want any areas that are eggshell thin, but I also don't want any areas that are clunky and thick and heavy. Oh, this is a little too thin. I scooped out too much over here. Okay. Now this, hold on a second. I'm just going to lay down some concrete where I need it, but I'm not smoothing anything off or making it its final form yet. I just want to get this wire in place. Then I'll smooth and neaten everything out later. Okay, that's where the wire belongs, right there. This is fairly fluid. I can wait about 5 minutes for it to solidify. This can get as solid as it wants. It's even when it's too solid to be workable, like it's like hard Haagen-Dazs ice cream. It's still going to be flexible enough that we can still work with it. So I'm gonna go wash my tools again. Be right back. Woohoo. Solid. Okay, let's get started. Smoothing. Might have poked a hole in the sculpture right there. That's okay. I'll just patch it up. Hi, Honey's house. Yeah, I noticed the same thing. A lot of what I do, at least the scale of operation and the amounts of material I use are really similar to just handheld mixing and working in the kitchen. So now that you mention it, now I can't not see it. Looks like ice cream, or not ice cream, but like cake icing to me. And I do use a lot of food analogies to to communicate the concept of the consistency of the materials that I'm using. Like silicon rubber is syrupy when you mix it, and concrete goes through stages that are really similar to ice cream, going from vichyssoise or pea soup melted consistency up through, I call it shamrock shake, soft ice cream, tempered Haagen-Dazs, hard Haagen-Dazs, crumbly cake. Concrete has all those. It's really similar to the feeling of a dairy product as it freezes, the stages of concrete as it solidifies. And since we handle food with our fingertips and with our mouth, which are the most sensitive areas, we have a really fine-tuned awareness of food consistency. So that's why I like to use it to really form analogies for the fine-tuned differences in consistency of concrete and sculpture materials. Anyway, so we got this banana done, and I'll be back in 90 seconds after. Wait, hold on a second. Never mind. I have a little bit of extra concrete, so I'm going to make a refrigerator magnet. This is a mold that I use to make refrigerator magnets with, and I'll show you two that I poured yesterday, just out of extra concrete that's left over da, da. So I'm going to refine these, smooth them out, and then paint them and lacquer them and polish them and glue a magnet onto the back, and they will become cute little refrigerator magnets. And so will, hold on, so will this. Let's see, you just have to take it and smush it in there to make sure that it really doesn't have bubbles, that it's well cast onto the surface of that little mold there in all the little details. See, go like that. Flatten out the back. Now tomorrow that will be a nice little refrigerator magnet in the making. Okay, I'm going to wash up, come back in 90 seconds and see if there are any chat questions at Whatnot or YouTube and answer them, and then say goodbye. So I'll be back in just 90 seconds. Hold on just a second. All right, that was it. Bye bye. See you tomorrow. See you later. How long does it take to? Well, this concrete, it really depends on the concrete and how long it takes to harden up. And I use Rapid Set brand all-purpose construction mortar in the blue label. And it's just a commercial product, but it's basically sidewalk cement. If you let it sit, it'll harden up to being like hard clay in 5 minutes. It depends on how much water you put in it. If you put a lot of water in it and it's kind of soupy, it could take 20 minutes to harden up, sitting still undisturbed. And it could take 5 minutes if there's not too much water in it and it's not soupy, but it's more clay-like. Then it'll harden up really fast if it's undisturbed. But if you agitate it and keep mixing it, you could keep it soft and pliable for more than several hours. I've the longest I've ever done it is to keep it fluid for about an hour, but who knows how long you could go. And it all depends on. And then if you add a little bit more water as you mix, you can keep it really fluid and return it to a soupy state where you'd have to add more concrete to get it to solidify. So it all depends on. Even though it's rapid set concrete, it will harden up in 5 minutes under the right conditions. You could also keep the very same mixture going for a couple of hours with no problem at all, as long as you remember to mix it every couple of minutes. If you forget, like I just did today, and you let it sit for even a couple of minutes too long, boom, it becomes too hard to work with. So, long story short, I don't know. See you later. See you tomorrow. Is this thing on? How do you? Okay, there we go.